deficit, motherfucker. You can't trust.
It is 9:30 on a Thursday night, and you're tuned into Beltway Radio and Beyond, which can mean one and only thing. This is Chip Chat. Welcome to Chip Chat. I'm Chip. Who are you, Tez?
You just told him, buddy.
All right. So if we sound a little like off,
Yeah.
it's because we're coming to you, from our home studio here at Beltway Radio and Beyond for the last time, at least for a while.
Right.
The studio itself, we're going to have to fold up. The show's going to continue.
Of course.
The show must go on.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. We love you, Brian. But yeah, this is the last show from the studio. The show has been here since going back to when Fish and I were in here. I don't know, when did we start? When did we move into here? 4 years ago? 5 years ago? It's been 5 years. Yeah, so a lot's changed.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed. 5 years ago was before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic.
Yeah, and then we went to the pandemic, and we had to go remote.
How long you guys were here before the pandemic hit?
About a year.
A year, okay.
Yeah, we were here for about a year or so before that. It was great, and it's been a great studio, and apart from it being pretty far away from where I live, I got no complaints. It's been really nice. And
yeah, I've enjoyed this studio.
The people who run the building have been relatively accommodating and helpful for us, and our dumb adventure here.
It's fun. I'm drinking what is this? GW Dribbling George's lager.
Yeah.
Here. Well, GW.
Made by
I know
PC
you.
Brown. Yeah,
I know you all have a very lovely studio at WRGW.
That's true.
So, if you ever need a show, and I am an alumni of that network.
Right.
Go look it up.
Go ahead, call
the
call
Blackout.
up.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, just let us know if we're a fun show.
We're a community show.
We're a community show.
This is community radio. This is what we do here.
Yeah.
We're the voice of the people.
Exactly. So maybe it's like a joint venture. Like it's still our show, but we do it, from.
We are not above taking.
We should. I feel like college
sponsorship or anything else. You want us to do live reads? We'll definitely do that. You want us to call people names? We'll do that too. We don't care. We're hired guns at this point.
We can do what's it? Yeah.
As long as you let us also rant about soccer, we will also do whatever else you want to.
We fold a student in, and
let
news.
them. They can be the newsreader and the
exactly.
intern or whatever. You can have them hang out with J. Scott Smith and win an Emmy.
I don't know. I feel like we could fit. Were we talking about college radio last week?
Yeah.
College radio. We could fit into like a college radio.
Yeah, we both look like we're in college.
Exactly.
I mean, you definitely do, especially with the hat and all that stuff. Yeah, you look like some college student.
This is a story, obviously, that would be me, but I was on the search for this book, Avengers of the New World. I know, right? Because there should be a sound. I need to find a sound.
Nerd!
Whenever I nerd off or something like that, it needs to be a sound from me. Maybe in the new year, I'll finally do some work. And but anyways, I was looking for this book. It's around like the Haitian Revolution. And I think the author is Laurent Dubois. I think that's the author's name. But I couldn't find the book, and the only place I could find it was in the GW library. So like I went, and like they were like, "Do you have a student like ID, and I was like, no, not really.
From a million years ago.
Yeah, not really a student here. Just coming to get a book. You know, it's one of these weird books that you only could kind of find on the.
Can you check it out anyway?
I was buying it, but it was like a used copy. It was really weird how they ended up getting it there, but
that's how the internet works, though.
no, the
You're
internet
able
works.
to find it.
Yeah, I was able to find it.
Well, there you go.
So
Okay, so anyway,
we'll find a studio eventually.
we'll find someplace. We had to leave because we're having to leave because the rent is too damn high, and we just can't make it work. Now, if we had more shows and more people wanted to participate in this community radio station, or paid their fees on time, we would be we'd be in better shape. But as it stands, I do want to express my heartfelt gratitude to everybody who's been part of Beltway Radio because
Of course, yes.
we've kept it going for 2 years, and we love everybody for being a part of it, and we're really sorry that it had to end the in-studio part. However, this is not an end of the show nor of the network, of course.
Right.
What we're going to do is return to our roots, how you and I started, remotely.
Which worked.
It worked great. We
that.
were great, and it's worked out for us with using the remote technology for getting guests and punching well above our weight in terms of who we can talk to.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go back to that for a little while until something materializes. Who knows? We'll put it out in the universe.
There it is.
Okay. Also, it turns out Elon is the Speaker of the House, or co-president, maybe.
How many days left? Where are we at on the countdown? We're close. Oh my, we're 30 days out.
30 days.
30 days out. Oh yeah. I mean, just everyone, hold on. I'm gonna go buy me an EV. Enjoy my life.
Well, now there's not going to be any regulations on the batteries, so if it blows up, that's going to be,
I
too bad for all those Tesla drivers.
Gotta get the ones now, and
okay, so that's going to be interesting. Trump's still a convicted felon, a school shooting, because, why not? It's America.
Yeah.
It's our freedom. And Ukraine is not playing around, at all. That's just some of the stuff we're going to talk about.
Right.
Plus, the D.C. Council is sort of acting a little bit like a real government. Virginia is suffering from, you ready for this? From confusion. That's bad.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
So that's so bad.
Wait till you hear the story. Wait till you hear the story. It's gonna be wild.
It always is.
It is. This is going to be the hottest story you've ever heard in your life. Almost as hot as the sun.
We're getting close.
Matter of fact, as hot as the sun.
We didn't even get. I'm surprised there was no Matt Gaetz in here. Is there? Yeah.
Well. Okay.
Interesting.
Since you mentioned that,
yeah,
I didn't have time to fit it in.
That's usually
House Ethics is going to release the Gates report, but not until the end of this Congress. So we have to wait for them to fail at the CR and go home to then get the Gates report, which means we'll probably have that early next year for us to make hay of. So stay tuned for that. You know what's in it.
Yeah, I know.
It's not going to be shocking. It just might not be printable for respectable publications.
Yeah, you might not.
One of those UK tabloids will run the thing.
I mean, look, and think they ban books for less.
Well, this one actually involves criminal sexual behavior with minors.
Yeah.
So that's a thing that maybe.
But what's his excuse? He says his 20s, his 30s was wild. What did he say? Something like that. Crazy.
I don't know.
I never did anything like that.
I can't think of any legitimate excuse that would work here.
Never worked.
It's not like he was 18 and she was his girlfriend in high school and he just aged, he was 6 months older or something like that.
No.
This is not that. So also he's paying for it.
Yeah.
So it's obvious he knows what he's getting.
Yeah.
He's probably paid a premium for it too. He's called up his buddy Joel. He's like, "Hey Joel, get me one of the extra young ones."
Sick.
And he's like, "Oh, that'll cost you an extra $1,000." He's like, "My dad's good for it."
That's
and then
sick.
it is sick. It's Florida.
It is Florida.
It's maximum Florida. Good Lord. Can't wait for the ocean. Never mind. Okay.
No. That's not good. There are other innocent people there.
Well, they'll get out. They've got time.
Sure.
They're not the ones wedded to this bullshit. Anyway.
Okay. Different story.
Okay. So, do you have a word?
Yep, I got a word.
Okay, I've got a word. So, Sit back, grab some.
Dollies.
It's farewell time. You're listening to the best show, the only show, Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's popping up?
Okay, so now it's come. We're well. It's not a good way to do this.
Sad down.
Now, yeah. This is a rundown. This. Do I even do the thing?
You do the thing. Fuck it. Yeah, because you do. Yeah, you do the thing.
This is America, and this is the most American story you're going to hear on this network
tonight.
All right. Now we come to the part of the show. It's called the rundown. This is where I tell you about some stuff that's going on in the news. If we were professionals, it would sound a little something like this.
From Beltway Radio and beyond in Washington, D.C., I'm Emmy-nominated TV newsman and just bona fide sexual beast, J. Scott Smith. And this is the part of the show where I tell some stuff about well, maybe not me, but somebody else is going to tell some stuff about what's happening in the news. So, what's going on in the news, fellas?
Thanks, Dave.
Oh, my God.
Brian? No. Okay, well, as Brian's sound effect alluded to, police in Madison, Wisconsin are searching for a motive after a student at a private K-12 Christian school killed a teenage student and a teacher, injured 6 others on campus Monday. The shooter, identified as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha, was dead when officers arrived. Of the 6 injured, 2, both students, were in critical condition. Earlier, it was reported that a second-grade kid called the cops. Actually, it was a second-grade teacher, just to clear that up in case people are a little confused.
I saw some of that. I was like,
Well, the police chief said so because he had been misinformed of it. But, that hits pretty hard.
And, I mean, it's not far-fetched.
It's pretty believable.
I get why people, because you could train your kid, like, at this point.
You have to. Yeah. My kids have lockdown drills in their elementary school.
Same.
Yeah. America. Now, just to be clear, we're going to go over this story. We want to make a few things very, very clear right off the bat. They're not called bullets. They're called freedom pellets. And dead children is the NRA's way of showing how much they love this country. And we all love this country, and the price of loving this country is dead children. And if you think otherwise, you are wrong. And you might catch a freedom pellet as a result. Okay? So we just need to be clear about that.
I mean, it is clear. I mean, I think as a country, we've stood our ground on this, right?
We have.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's clear as day, right? And I don't even it's hard. It's almost hard to even care. And I know that sounds callous, but it's like, I believe that the majority of America does care about this, and they do want to prevent this.
Yes.
But the levers that can control this, they just don't seem to work. Like, they work in one way, and there's, again, too much money that's being funneled. And even NRA is one, but, there are new groups.
Yeah.
But it's that's one section of it, but, I think this gets even bigger than that. And I mean, I think we look at the Supreme Court and where they have chosen to fall on this in the interpretation of what the Second Amendment. And it's
that we have the Second Amendment at all is part of the problem here.
We're okay with this.
We are okay.
And I mean, the quote unquote, but we're okay with this. And I mean, these stories don't, like, as we were just talking about off air, they don't even break the same way that they used to. I don't know what the magnitude has to be or how many people it even has to be. Like, I guess Las Vegas was the one. That's the one still, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's I think
that's
the largest,
one.
56 or something like that.
Yeah, so
I think if the shooter in this hadn't been a girl, we probably wouldn't have heard about it. It would have been just like another school shooting that happens so frequently now. The Post had a story where they counted up how many kids had been touched by school shootings this year alone.
And I think it's always, like, when we think about that, and I know the Post does a good job of that because John Woodward Cox is usually the person, like, who reports on that. But it also isn't just, like, obviously, like, the person who's shot and their immediate family, but then think about you being a kid in school, and you probably can if you're our age, thinking about conceptualizing this is kind of insane for us, I think. Right?
You can't remember.
You can't.
Columbine.
You can remember Columbine. You can't remember drills, though. You didn't do lockdown. Like, no. And you didn't. I never went to school and thought, like, even after Columbine, I was like, crazy. But I never thought, I got out of high school and never thought that I would be gunned down.
No, not once.
It was not once. But I think children now already kind of know that going into school. But let's just say your friend is shot. And now that's like, you weren't necessarily, like, physically
Maybe you were
harmed.
in the school when it happened.
Yeah.
You didn't get shot, and none of the people who got shot were people
Imagine
you
if
knew
you were
personally.
at the doctor that day. How does those things, like, play into a child's mind of, like, when you talk about how many people are affected by this, I mean, that ripple effect of these children, there's obviously anybody getting shot, but children being killed, that ripple effect is
in their
extremely
school by
large.
Another kid.
Yeah, come on now. We're again, hard for me to even comprehend based on when I went to school, maybe being afraid of walking home and things of that nature, and even not so much, but more so there, but not in the school. The school was actually a place of, like,
the school felt
safety.
like a relative refuge. But the situation with the gun violence in the country in general, and specifically in terms of things like schools, churches, shopping malls, all of these kind of mass shooter events, that, like, this is so normal, so consistent in its occurrence that it doesn't crack the top of the newscast at all. You might not have heard anything about this.
Nope. Yeah.
And when this broke, and then the Post tracker showed how many people had been exposed or been affected by school shootings, which is like 300,000 kids. It's a lot of people. I almost was like, I don't even remember that many happening this year. And then you look at the list and you're like, oh shit, how many of these were regional stories? They didn't even make national news anymore. When you say that there's, like, money on the side of keeping this going, I'm not sure it's just money. I believe that there is a chunk of this country for whom this is the thing that allows this to happen is an identity. And it's the from my cold dead hands kind of thing, that the way that those people think. I know that the majority of people who lawfully own guns in this country are not fans of school shootings. I know that the majority of people who lawfully own guns in this country believe in things like background checks, safe storage laws, various limits on what people can own, and various limits on how many things people can buy, how often, or whatever. That's the vast majority. But there's a not small section of people who own guns in this country who their identity is tied to being this thing that is an absolutist when it comes to the guns. No matter the cost, no matter how many dead kids they are around, no matter how many of their own dead kids. I mean, when it happened at that conservative Christian school in Tennessee, those people all looked around, and the mothers, I want to be very clear about this, the mothers snapped out of their trance and were like, the guns are a problem. But the fathers, the men in that community were like, my kid is dead because freedom. And they were happy about it.
All right, I think this is kind of how I break down where the money plays into this, right? Because one, we'll look at, like, the raw numbers. We know, again, like we said earlier, majority of people in this country, you just mentioned there, prefer, and I think that number might be somewhere but 70%,
It's
right?
above that.
Yeah,
it's
right.
80-something
Right.
percent.
So we know that, right? So then what you're telling me then is then there's 20% of people who don't believe in this, right? So we know that the 20, how can that work, right? Where that shouldn't work, right? But what ends up happening is the gun manufacturers, they lobby, right? And what they're lobbying is what you just said. They're saying, hey, one, they're trying to take your guns.
They're trying to
so
take
you
your
need more. Because let's think about
you
a gun.
need guns to protect your guns.
Because think about a gun in general. If you take care of a gun, if you're judicious about making sure it's cleaned and right, and
it'll outlive you.
Exactly. We got guns that are from fucking 18.
Yeah.
And they'll kill you still. They shoot.
They still work great.
So again, the whole concept of the actual the device itself is something that you might need 2, 3 if you like it. But okay, how do you get beyond that and how do you continue sales? Because sales wouldn't really
They would plateau.
They would plateau, but how do you keep the sales to continue up? You have to create that culture piece of it. And again, every year I want a new, and because I also know, and I think half of it is folks I'm very afraid of the government coming, which whatever, a drone will destroy everything you have. I'm sorry, it's just gonna wipe out your whole block. They did it with less.
They did in Ukraine with a fucking scooter.
They did it with less to black people in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's happened with less.
Yeah.
So but there's another segment that I've seen that's again, there are things you can add on to these guns.
Yeah.
You can go and that also perpetuates the sale there as well too. But I do think this comes down to a product that you need to reinvent a reason for people to continue to buy it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think this drives. And the reason it's driven is because you have 20% of those lunatics who are like, nah, we're running with this. And then you have a court that also has bought into this. And that's how you have a minority ruling the majority, which is insane.
I take your point that the manufacturers want this to continue. But
Their lobby, yes.
They have money on the line here. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't really, it isn't driven by just campaign contributions. It's where that vocal 20% or whatever percentage it is so vocal, and they're able to make this case that bleeds into maybe the sort of middle of the rest of them, where they go, well, all right, let's say you got fringy guy over here yelling about they're gonna come take my guns and I need more guns to protect myself. You got average gun owner guy who's like, come on, dude, that's crazy. Right. And you and your Bushmaster 223 don't stand a chance against the federal government. So this is stupid or whatever. But then the fringy guy goes, well, yeah, but what if they also came for your 30-06 hunting rifle? And the guy goes, well, I don't think that's likely, but you know what? Just in case,
I'm riding with you. Yeah. Right. And that block is strong.
Yeah, and because the same, honestly, I think it sort of plays off of this thing. The thing that makes somebody a safe gun owner is that they're cautious and they follow the rules and they want to, they don't take chances, right? If they
understand the power of the weapon.
They understand how dangerous it is, so they're very cautious people, and that same caution makes them sort of unwilling to support a rule or a law that might be bent to take their stuff or to infringe on their ability to do that.
Which is
because they're like, you know what, just to be safe, I'm going to lock up my gun, and also just to be safe, I'm going to vote against any sensible gun control just to be safe. That's how they're thinking about it.
But then it's just I don't know. I don't see where it makes sense at the end of the day.
What levers are left to pull? Okay.
There's not many.
We're however many years removed from Sandy Hook. We're 5 years removed from Sandy Hook. Or more than that.
More.
We're 10 years. Yeah, we're 10 years removed from Sandy Hook. Alex Jones and the people who denied it have been sued into oblivion, some of which have been thrown in jail for whatever they're doing. We've got children getting massacred in their schools on such a regular basis that nobody even blinks at it anymore. The children of the gun nuts are getting killed by their own guns all the time. There's no levers left. So to your statement, this is normal. This is America. This is what we want. This is what this country loves. This is it. It's like baseball and apple pie and school shootings.
And are you like, we always talk about the nation and people like, if you're not able to protect the most vulnerable in the nation, right, which would be our children, then you shouldn't even you're not considered a nation.
No.
You're not like we talk like it's dressed up. Everything we do here is dressed up really nice. But if you look at this specific issue that we have, you could easily say that there are other places in the world that people might call shithole countries that do not have this problem.
Don't have this problem.
And maybe we are the actual shithole country, again, with a clean coat on. I don't know.
I believe also that the way that the gun nut world kind of dovetails with the Christian nationalist, white supremacist, ethno-state sort of worldview means that in their mind, this is an acceptable outcome. This is what makes you a nation, right? That they're able to lean on their faith to get through this otherwise utterly preventable, constant tragedy.
Yeah.
It to them becomes an article of faith. It becomes a test. Can you get up in the morning knowing that there's going to be a school shooting in your community within the next couple of months and still go to work and still do your job and still make money for the billionaires? And if you can do that, it is because your faith in Jesus is strong. And it's because you go to church and listen to the guy who asks you for yet more money every Sunday. That is your faith, and that is your freedom, and that is your strength, and that is what makes you a strong alpha male who has a vessel for a wife. That is this whole thing.
Okay, so then, but then the question always becomes then, like, the only way to stop it is to actually persuade
the
those
party of life,
you have
the
to
ones
persuade.
who are so sure that fetuses need the protection of the state, are absent from the conversation when actual living, breathing, talking children with history and trophies from soccer tournaments are fucking gunned down on a regular basis. They are absent. Not only absent, perhaps celebrating it. There's a very powerful ad around that I'm sure you've seen it on TV or YouTube or wherever, where there's a group of people at a party. There's adults and there's children around, and there's a pool. And there's a little kid, falls in the pool and is drowning. And all of the parents around look at the kid drowning and they go, thoughts and prayers. And they look at each other and go, it's so terrible that these kinds of, and the mom is screaming, won't somebody do anything? And they do nothing except sit around and tell each other to pray about it. Like that's gonna fucking help. And nothing happens and the kid fucking dies. And do you know why? Because they did nothing. Because it was an acceptable, possibly victorious, not probable, ordained outcome that they are seeking. This is part of a world that they want. Otherwise, how can you possibly explain this? How? Have you ever touched a hot stove or shocked yourself from an electric outlet? How many times did you do it?
Once.
Exactly once. And here we are, 300,000 kids in this United States have experienced a school shooting in one fucking year. And it compounds, right? Because it's going to be more.
Yeah, and it's coming to your neighborhood soon.
It is.
It's coming to your
And
school
an
soon.
example here is this shooter, her parents got married and divorced from each other 3 times. They got remarried to each other.
Yeah.
And then kept getting divorced and had weird fucked up custody situation. And it undoubtedly damaged her mental state. But they also took her shooting, got her a gun, or at least provided her the access to it. Look, back in the late 90s, I think it was, or maybe the very early 2000s, Chris Rock had a joke in one of his specials where he says he knows that this country is never going to get rid of the guns. You're never going to get anybody to give up their guns, or their means of violence. He said, but why, instead of guns for cash, why don't we just try guns for knives? Because he had this line about how anybody can shoot someone from across the room, but it takes a man to walk over and stab them.
And to stab 45 people.
And then 20 years later, he modifies this joke to some version of, if you ever hear about 100 people that got stabbed, 93 of them wanted to get stabbed because they had a chance to get away and they didn't. Hey, that guy stabbed that lady. Oh no, he stabbed that other guy. man, after 30 more people, he could get to me. I better stick around to see what happens. No.
Sounds like a choice.
Right. So, like, that joke carries and works for that long. And still, I can't square this except to say that I think that these people who say anything about how they value the sanctity of human life and how that must be protected at all costs, we can add this to the list of things that prove that that's bullshit.
Well, let's see what ends up happening in the charges on this, because we have Michigan might have been right.
They set a tone here.
Yeah, they set a tone here. So I'm interested.
Charge the parents.
Yeah, and this sounds crazy, right? There's fucking kids shot up, people dead, and I'm interested in what the court, but I don't know where else to go with this. Again, y'all don't care about this. No one cares about this shit. So why am I gonna sit here and act like even for me? You know how I think through this? So when is it coming to my fucking school?
Yeah.
Is my child gonna be okay about this?
That's
right?
Exactly how I
the selfish piece of that
I
at this point. Yeah.
Terrified about
it's there. I literally was on a freaking meeting with the board explaining that a day ago, and I was like, scariest thing any of us do is drop our children off every day. It's the scariest thing we do.
The truth.
So
yeah,
and I don't think my parents would be like, the scariest thing I did.
Not once. Not once. Not once. My parents didn't give a shit. They didn't worry about any of this. Let us run feral through the neighborhood. They didn't give a shit. They'd drop us off at soccer practice and say, come back when you're done. And nobody worried about anything like that.
Yeah.
The ubiquity, the number of guns per people also wasn't what it is now.
Yeah,
and that you can print one off at home.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Fucking
access.
3D printer.
It's just access. It's never going to not be that.
Yeah, well, maybe Luigi will fix that too. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got a story that has modified itself over the course of the week since we started writing it, and could modify itself soon, coming to an FDA near you. All right, we're going to take a break. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps!
Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's popping up?
That was some whatever weird stuff Brian found. Who was that, Brian? He's checking. It's right, Turn of the Frogs Gay.
No, not yet.
Tease.
The first group is by West Side Gun, and their song was called "Still Praying."
Oh, good. That's very topical.
Yeah. And the second song I played is by Awera OST, and the song is called "0 Hour."
There you go.
That is the perfect. That is exactly what I was just listening to. The 0 hour.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
void. Yeah.
Okay, so Tez, you live in the United States.
I do.
Yeah, and we're nominally a country
for now.
And, we have things that the government does to sort of keep the country operating as such. There's a lot of things that the government does, right? They have air traffic controllers, for example. There's 1,800 air traffic controllers. It's not enough, but that's how many there are. It sounds pretty low. It is. Yeah. They do things like keep the airplanes flying. They do things like manage the border, right? There's a border. They inspect the food producing facilities.
Thank you.
They manage.
Shout out to the bird flu.
Yep. They manage the sort of trade apparatus of the government or of the world in to some extent. They monitor cybersecurity things, keep threats under control. There's an army. They do a lot of things. The government does a lot of things. Until Saturday night. Then they're going to do nothing because it's going to shut down. So here's
we're here. This feels so.
It does feel really familiar. Remember the last time we had this conversation? Okay, so one of the things, of course, is that the federal government has to fund itself. And this is a weird thing that America does, but other countries do this kind of thing too, sort of. The debt ceiling is our own special
That's the crazy
thing.
one.
But
which is
that
weird.
matters now.
Which is weird. This is weird.
It is weird, a little bit. Well,
yeah,
kind of. Here's what we're getting at. Earlier this week, we knew that we were coming up on this deadline, and we were going to have to do the thing, or Congress was going to have to do the thing that happens a lot these days, which is called a continuing resolution, a CR, right? And despite promising to not do this,
they do it every time.
Speaker Johnson, MAGA Mike, was like, hey, what we have to do is do the omnibus at the end of the year CR. And when it's around Christmas and it's at the end of the year and it's cramming everything in, they call it the cramnibus.
Right.
Because that's hilarious. And the other thing that it often gets called is a Christmas tree because people add their own little things. And they put so many little.
We had a nice one in there.
We did.
We had a really good one.
Several important things.
A good one in there.
Might still be there.
Hopefully,
we'll find out.
We'll find out.
So when you get down to these CRs and stuff, a lot of times each individual delegation or particular congressperson can angle for, in this case, because the votes are so tight, they can angle for their own special little thing.
Right.
They don't call them earmarks anymore, but they get their own special little ornament to hang on the CRmas tree, right? And so...
Did they get rid of the pork as well, too? Did we not call it that?
They don't. They often don't refer to it that. Wasteful spending,
Wasteful.
I think.
Use that better word.
Yeah, pork.
Pork barrel. Yeah, pork barrel
spending.
That was a better time.
Yeah, tax and spend. Goddamn liberals. Right. So it got down to the wire, and Mike Johnson, to his credit, he does seem to want to govern. He was a realist about this. He's like, look, we're not going to get what we want, but we're going to get something. We're going to get some of the things that we want, and we're going to be able to keep the government open.
Get this shit out to March.
Which is, going to get us out till March. And when the election, results are over and everybody's sworn in, it's a new Congress and new president and all this kind of stuff, and we're going to be able to hit the ground running with a lot of President Trump's priorities included in this.
Yeah, he's just like, what the fuck? Like, let's just get it done. We have a plan.
We're gonna get what we want,
no matter what. Nope.
Now, to get it,
yes,
he was gonna have to also do a little wheeling and dealing.
For the last time.
Well, no, actually, maybe he's gonna have to do it more going forward.
Now, yeah.
Okay, but he right now he's got a bigger majority than he's about to have.
That's fair.
So he has a little more leverage, and he's got
the people are gonna leave.
Yeah, and he's got a Senate that is sort of willing to play ball with this so long as everything kind of keeps going. There doesn't seem to be a lot of opposition there. And so, he had everything lined up. And it included these things, for the Maryland and D.C. region, some extra things, right? Money, about $2 billion, max $2 billion to pay to rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Huge.
Critical. It should be a federal priority because that is a part of the interstate system, number one, but also because so much trade.
I don't even know why this should even be going through.
This shouldn't ever be a conversation, but okay. So that was in there. Then to us critically, it's very important to me anyway, was the transfer of the land where RFK Stadium is to the district.
Yeah. So
that the district could then make a bid to bring the Washington football team back to RFK or something on that spot.
There.
Yeah.
Your owner wants something there by 2030.
Hey,
somewhere.
He He wants new stuff. He deserves new stuff for what he's done for us, so that's good.
He's going to get new stuff.
And he's going to pay for some of it. Yeah. He's been pretty clear about that. So, and then to sweeten that deal, there was like a transfer of a bunch of the fighter jets that the DC Guard flies to Maryland.
I thought that was the most interesting piece of this because I was like, well, we know who the DC National Guard reports to.
Yeah, they report to the mayor. Well, the president.
The president, exactly. But my question would be, maybe I don't want the fighter jets in the hands of the president. Maybe I kind of want them. I'd rather them in West Morris. Hey, I was like, maybe I would. Not that where they're gonna go fly those suckers up anywhere and start shooting stuff.
Shooting drones in New Jersey.
I don't know, but I just don't. The president controlling the National Guard of DC. I never was very afraid of it
until January 6th.
Yeah, that one was kind of a little. But I mean, I guess some people in the 90s would have probably argued when that happened as well. That's not the first time the National Guard.
It wasn't the first, but it was very different.
It was very different.
And it was So, but the transfer of the jets, they already fly out of Maryland. Let's be clear about that. So
there's no air. There's not a
viable
airstrip that can do this.
Correct. So. But what it meant was that Maryland was going to get the federal dollars that supported those in exchange for basically knowing that the football team is going to leave, and it was all worked out. It was a little messy. It was a little pork barrel-y, a lot of extra little things hung on there. But generally speaking, this looked like a regular old CR. It wasn't
what we're used to at this point.
Yeah, it wasn't what they call a clean CR.
Yeah, no.
But it wasn't a terribly junky one either. And so, like, MAGA Mike's like, all right, cool, we're going to call the vote. And everything is fine until, dun, 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 Elon. Now, Elon, and to some extent, Vivek, were like, nah. We, as the not elected government contractors who stand to benefit from control of the government, are like, we don't like this. And they told Trump, this is bad. And Trump, who does not understand a CR or give a shit about anything, was like, yeah, it's bad. And he tweeted out this long, complicated thing that made no sense, just like everything else he does, about how if anybody votes for this, he's going to unleash a primary on them individually, and it was trash. And so...
And Elon had his comments as well.
He said it was a trash bill. He said it was garbage or something like that. And
to asking people like to reach out to the representatives around this.
He sent his bot army.
Yeah, I mean, and also too, I think we saw this around our friend from Fox. Like, right? They sicked it on that poor woman. I forgot what's her name. I was just listening to a story on her. They sicked all the MAGA people on her, and she was anti him. What's his name? Max. Who's the guy they're going for to lead up the Pentagon from off of TV?
Oh, Hegseth.
Yeah, like I forgot the woman senator who they basically. God, where is she out of?
I don't know.
Out of Iowa, maybe. But they basically, she wasn't going to vote for it.
Joni Ernst.
Joni Ernst. There we go.
They went after Joni Ernst.
Yeah, but again, similar thing. And when people ask why why was he so adamant about buying Twitter? This is it.
This is part of it.
This is really the big piece of it.
He's got this lever that he can pull that can influence things, but it crashed it. And the fact that the elected members of Congress did not stand up for themselves and their own branch, let alone against, I mean, they're not even talking about a president pushing them around. They're talking about unelected sycophants who are going to be out of his orbit in 6 months anyway.
The doggies.
They're like, they're running the show now.
We all know that it can't be that. And eventually, once the narrative and the media grabs that, there's no way. I mean, unless Donald Trump is really as old and like he's senile, but I think that's something he still responds to, that he needs to be the one that is shown in control.
It needs to be him.
And in 6 months, to your point, this could all be over with, and he's going to send out a tweet and said he's fired these people who aren't even hired.
Right. So they crashed the bill, and then Trump came back with something even more nuts. He was like, I need the CR's got to have, money for the disaster relief. It did. It's got to have money for farmers. It did. And then he added in this thing and cancel the debt ceiling. Like, get rid of it. And every Democrat was like, wait, did he say the thing? And we all checked the tweet and we're like, no, he did say. Maybe go for it. Get rid of this stupid thing.
Yeah.
The debt ceiling is stupid. It's very stupid. It's a limit on how much Congress can borrow.
Yeah, for stuff they've already committed to.
Not how much they can spend.
Yeah. And they've already committed.
They've already committed to spending it, and in many cases have already spent it. They just can't borrow the money to actually pay for it. So
and it risks default.
The only thing the debt ceiling does is create a chance for the United States to default on its
It's
obligations.
very weird.
No other country has this.
And then everybody says, but if I buy money and I'm like, shut up, because the United States federal government
can print money.
It's not your bank. It's not you.
It's right.
It's different.
But also included in this was like, get rid of the FDIC or whatever. Like, so your bank account might not exist soon.
Hey, and guess what? Word to Kai Rizzo, you know what? You know how that's funded? It's funded by the banks. They pay that.
They pay into it.
Pay into it. That's not funded. What are we talking about?
We already saw that happen with the Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah.
And the FDIC did the thing, and they got their money back from it. Because that's how it works. Because FDR made it fucking work that way. Idiots.
No, these people are insane.
This really kind of, the debt ceiling aspect of this, or even the fact that the government's going to shut down on Saturday, are kind of like just symptoms of the greater problem, okay? It's funny. It's interesting to watch this abomination or failure of governance in this regard. Is it damaging? Absolutely. Just to be very clear,
Yeah.
Shutdowns cost the government money.
Cost them money.
Because they have to spend a bunch of money to shut things down, and then they have to spend a bunch of money to start things up. While they're off, while they're closed, things don't happen that people need to have happen. There are still some people who have to show up to work because they're dubbed essential. They don't always get paid.
Right.
That's another thing. If people have this idea that, the federal workers are going to get paid regardless. Not necessarily. None of the contractors will get paid. That's a given because those contracts are stopped, paused, suspended.
Yeah. And anybody out there, have you ever missed a check?
Right.
It's crazy.
And imagine if you've got employees that you need to then pay with that check.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Big problem, okay? That's all kind of the thing. But really what we're looking at here is right now MAGA Mike's got like a 5 or 6 vote margin, depending on how many people show up. When we get to the next Congress, the 119th, he's going to have a 2 vote margin. And that's if everybody's there.
Yeah.
Right? If
Someone's
kid is sick, somebody is sick, somebody's got to go to ribbon cutting in their district, they've had a disaster in their district that they need to go check on. All kinds of very reasonable reasons that Congress people aren't at the Capitol that day. He might not have a majority at all. And he was already dependent on current Speaker Jeffries to do all of the heavy lifting for him. Yeah. And they asked him, hey, when it comes down to a vote, if MAGA Mike gets threatened with, defectors, are you going to bring the Democrats to keep him in his position? And Jeffries goes, no. One word. When Hakeem Jeffries answers you in one word, this dude can take an order at McDonald's and turn it into a 5-minute soliloquy. He goes, no. That's it. That's it. He didn't fit in a Biggie lyric.
No.
He didn't turn this into some story about when he was a young man growing up in Brooklyn or how difficult it was going to law school or picking a fight with his brother and how his mom really likes him more. He didn't fit any of those. Those are standard Hakeem Jeffries lines. Yeah. None of that. He just goes, nope. So MAGA Mike's in a big fucking pickle here. Big fucking pickle. Don't Google MAGA Mike and big fucking pickle.
Please, no. Please, no.
It'll trip his porn accountability censors. His black son will be like, yo.
My God.
Right, there you go.
No, this is... But doesn't this all fit into what we said earlier on, is that the Republican Party and the Trump version of this specifically is not interested in governing.
No.
And cool, you want to get rid of the debt ceiling, but you're never going to be able to pass anything.
Right.
So it doesn't even matter.
Including that.
It sounds good and doesn't. There you go. There it is.
A rabid Republican ridiculousness.
There you go. Triple R's.
Way to go, Brian.
All those R's are hard.
Yes. If you you like the double R burger at Roy Rogers, now try the triple R burger at MAGA Mike's.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, yeah, they just
Hard R's.
They don't care. They don't care. So
what does this portend for the future of their governance?
I mean,
what are they going to be able to do?
Could it be possible? The government shutdown that happened this time? What would it be in 2018? I guess.
Yeah, there were 2 under Trump.
There's 2 under Trump. Yeah, but like that one, the longest ever. What was that? 30-something days.
Yeah, it was 40 something.
Something crazy like that, right? So
it was more than a month.
Could we potentially have a government shutdown as we go into the inauguration? That would be a new one.
That is very likely.
That'd be a new one. That's crazy.
Who
the
pays
government
for the inauguration?
Yeah.
How does that even happen? Maybe the government's closed. Maybe if the government's shut down, they don't certify the vote.
Are they going to open their own doors to come out?
How are they going to do that? There's going to be nobody there. How's the airplane going to land? No air traffic controllers. They all had to go home. I don't know.
No, that's essential because you have to have the transfer of power and all that stuff. I mean,
is it?
Regular people. Biden will make sure there's a transfer of power.
Sure. What power if they can't govern? They can't get it out of their own way.
That's what I've been thinking about. Like, does this run up to, the inauguration?
Does this run up to Trump saying, okay, Congress has lost the ability to actually make law and that we have to rule by fiat until they get their shit together? Is this the pathway to dictatorship?
I mean, but again,
isn't that how Caesar did it?
You still got to get to the 20th, though.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like this.
So, okay, he told everybody, he's like, if it happens, it's Biden's shutdown. And first of all, Biden's like, whatever, guy, I'm out of here. I don't fucking care.
Fuck everybody. Yeah,
fucking let it shut down. I can still pardon people while it's shut down.
Yeah.
And clemency for everybody. But it also, that's not what people will think about it at all. They'll know who shut it down. They know that the Republicans control the House, and they're the ones that shut it down, and they're going to know what's going on, and then it's going to stay shut down.
No one will be thinking about Joe Biden in 3 months.
No, and they're already not thinking about it.
Well, yeah. What are we talking
about? It's the infighting here. We've already talked about this. We knew this is going to be the case, right? All these people are self-interested. So, within seconds, that they don't have a common enemy of whatever the fuck deep state ghoul that they're currently created to fight after, and fucking Alex Jones, God knows what. They're just gonna turn on each other and gonna be like, hey, you wanted to direct it. Yeah, that's wasteful spending. Like, I was trying to fix the bridge in my district. Yeah, but it's not in my district, so that's a waste. And you pull your bridge up by its bootstraps or whatever the fuck.
Right, exactly.
I'm gleeful about this. I'm going to be very honest. I'm gleeful about this. This is who's going to be affected? All the poor white people that voted for Trump who depend on their food stamps, and all the poor white people who voted for Trump who depend on their Medicare, and all the poor white people that voted for Trump who are worried about the border. What happens if the border agents don't get paid? A bunch of them are going to quit, right? This is just, you got what you voted for, guys. Hooray! Hooray! They want to kill the ATF. That's another one. They were like, yeah, we're going to defund the ATF.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's great. This is great. I love this country. It's going to be so fun. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't alive in the pre-Civil War times.
Me either.
Well, yeah, you probably didn't want to be here.
No, not at all.
But apparently it was great. I heard in my Virginia history books how fantastic antebellum America was.
Right. Blue skies every day.
Speaking of which, follow me at Chef Chip.
There you go. Do I have anything else left
on the shutdown?
No.
I
don't know what. Yeah. What else I have? What else can I say about this?
Hooray!
No, I don't know if it's hooray.
Well, I would say let it burn, but of course the firefighters are all not getting paid.
Jesus.
The Forest Service is not essential. They're going to have to go home.
And Lord knows there'll be a forest fire.
Does anybody know that the Mississippi River carries all of the commerce in this country?
Good amount, yes. I do.
Nearly all of it, the inland waterways in general, right? And without this, we wouldn't be agriculturally competitive with the rest of the world because our labor costs are so much higher. You know who maintains that? Who keeps that operating to the tune of $13 billion a year? That's the Army Corps of Engineers. Guess what they're not going to be doing? They're not going to be dredging it out. They're not going to be running the locks. They're not going to be doing anything. And all those farmers with all that soy, it's going to fucking go bad, and they're all going to be poor. And they're not going to get their extra $10 billion that was in this CR because they tanked it all. And they voted for it. It's great.
Fun time.
I love this.
I don't. Because it's
It's
bad
like
for me.
Sideshow Bob stepping on the rake over and over again. It just keeps hitting him in the face and he doesn't learn. It's great. I can't wait to see what happens in another week. We won't be here. We're going to be off for the next couple of weeks. But when we come back, it's going to be really funny.
Start fucking up shit when I get a little money.
Yes.
That's when they want to start fucking shit up.
Oh, you got money? Wait, did you vote for Trump? You're one of the ones.
No.
You're one of those black Trump voters?
No, I would never vote for this because
Are you
I
a
like
Latino Trump voter?
I could be both. Right? I like money. These people don't like money.
No, they hate money.
Obviously they hate this. I thought I was aligned with these folks on some shit. Like I was like, all right, well, hey, like this doesn't make economic sense. Like hide your face. Yes, a lot of billionaires over here in Democrat land, but I thought maybe you would be okay with that. No, people don't. We'll still try to help people with this. No one was okay with that. They said, hey, populism is here. We'll let it run. We'll see where it gets people. I don't think, again.
Historically, it's done great.
Yeah. And again, there's a lot that needs to be, there's some soul searching that still needs to happen on the other side, on the Democratic side. Because I don't still see a plan for.
We don't need one right now. All we need to do is go, we ain't that. And then, woohoo. I mean,
I don't know. There's got to be something they can sell to folks. Because the folks chose this over that.
They did. They chose this knowing what it was.
So that's strong. That's a strong rebuke. I think you still need to look inwards and figure out why other people outside of the ones we already knew were going to do that chose to do this. They were persuaded to do this. So how do you persuade those same individuals to be like, no, this makes better sense here?
As we've established on this show many times, the first step is to make me chair of the DNC and to fight fire with fire and go full out, nutso on them. It's like let's get Kevin Hart to host the next debate. Like that's what it should be.
Yeah,
it's like a roast battle.
Roast battle.
Yeah, and just like flame the shit out of them. Because it won't matter, and we can just go down swinging. Hooray! There might not be another debate. There probably won't be the fiber optic system that we're all used to for this communication. The internet is maintained by the FCC and the fair usage and all that other stuff. The general service fund that keeps the phone lines operating in your rural, remote areas and all that shit. None of that's going to be there. It's all going to get switched off like that.
Some might say shut down.
Yeah. Chalk it up. All right, here's what we're going to do. Take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about more government. Because, this is a very interesting, fun show that people love because it talks about government. Everybody's favorite subject.
They love it.
Yeah, it's almost as fun as economics. All right.
All four listeners.
We're going to take a break. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
And we're not getting what humans always thought was key, the bone broth. 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 Well, now it's the next level of that. It's caveman. But hey, I need a glass of caveman. Man, it's better than Ovaltine. Better than Ovaltine. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Caveman is just over the top. What in the world? But now with the milk, I was like, whoa, this has milk in it. Whoa. It tastes like good. Man, this tastes so good. Tastes like the best milkshake ever. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. Like good. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. It tastes like Ovaltine. Like good. Whoa.
This is I can say without a doubt, at least in my experience, that this is literally.
This is a super home run available at InfoWars Live. Sick of all these witches and warlocks. You're full of shit. Pumpkin possums. I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why. Oh, there's energy and now we're done with Trump. You said he was the Messiah. You said he was invincible. I will not suffer your Q people after this. I knew what you were day one. I know what you are now. Witches and warlocks are full of shit. Pumpkin possums. I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. Witches and warlocks, you're full of shit. Pumpkin possums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why. Witches and warlocks, you're full of shit. Pumpkin possums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why. Because I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like the frogs. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frogs. Place point.
Oh man, that's a banger.
A banger.
Frog crap.
So mad. So mad. He's so mad.
Oh man. Speaking of frogs, this is not in the show, but I saw a post on one of my sort of Jewish community groups on the Facebooks, and it had this. It was this thing that somebody wrote. It's like, one of the things I love about Judaism is that somebody could pose a question like, suppose you had an ability to get consent from a frog and he was willing to do it. Could you wear one as a yarmulke, and would that be okay? And the best thing about being Jewish is that somebody would definitely take up that argument and give you several reasons why and several reasons why not. And we could be like, well, hold on a minute, let's talk this out. Instead of saying, that's stupid, why would anybody do that? We're like, well, let's go over the rules of this.
Figure this out if we can wear frogs.
So there are, so naturally, people had a lot of opinions about this, and it's been really fun.
What is the consent? What does consent from a frog look like?
Well, that, we sort of,
is that more like,
we posited that as already true. That you could get the consent from the frog. We hadn't gotten to what that actually looked like. But some of the conversation involves, this is going to be really weird to tell everybody about. If you read in the Torah where it says that about the 10 plagues, one of them is frogs.
Frogs, okay, yeah.
Except it isn't frogs. It's just frog. It's the word for frog, but in not plural. It's just frog. Not many frogs. It just says, and God sent a frog.
So one frog.
One frog. And we don't know if it's like one super poisonous, dangerous little frog.
Because this is how these stories start. Because it could have easily been
One
a
frog.
frog
Yeah.
that is now went and murdered people because it's a poisonous frog.
Yeah, or maybe it's a very giant frog who's like
God.
running around smashing things, with its big frog feet. And so
Those are the dreams I have after I leave the show.
This
I have
is
to get up in the morning.
This is an
Giant
endless
frogs smashing me.
thing that Jewish kids love to argue about on Passover. It's like, what's the deal about the frog, right? So we're arguing about that. So then the question about the frog kippah is then like, what if it's that kind of a frog, or is it multiple frogs? And like, how do we? So that's one thing that people have gotten onto. Another one is about how do you deal with the rules about the Sabbath and Shabbat? So like, if you have oxen or a horse or whatever, you can't work them on Sabbath, right? On Shabbat, you can't do that. So if your oxen want to plow the fields on their own, you can't do that. You can't let them do that. You stick them in the barn, not allowed to go out there. Horses can't pull carriages, can't do anything. So if the frog is sitting on your head,
To work.
is he working? He's doing his job.
Or is he resting?
Or is he resting because he's not doing anything? And do you have to give him off?
No, easily. This is easily, right? Anything that you wear on your head would be resting on your head.
Well, except that during the week he's doing it because it's his job as a beast of burden. Maybe he's working.
A hat rests on your head.
Yeah, but
The
he's
frog is
working.
resting.
He's working covering your head to
Yes,
show respect.
I
So
guess
like
that's
maybe
the
he's
other
doing
piece,
some
yeah.
stuff, and then if you drop him, like if you drop your kippah, you're supposed to pick it up and kiss it before you put it on. But can you kiss the frog? That might not be kosher. So like this is an incredibly good thing to argue about. It can go on forever. We'll never run out of dumb things to. But what if? And then we're right back on.
Back on.
Yeah, so we got to get Alex Jones to bring his gay frogs into this conversation because now we've got this whole Leviticus argument to get through.
Yeah, you know.
You're not supposed to lay with a man, but what about a frog? What if it's on his head? Is that legal? You know,
And you have different frogs for different people to kiss. If they drop
right?
it.
Yeah, or maybe. What
Well, you might
color
feel more
is the
comfortable
frog?
with another different frog.
If it's a rainbow frog, was it? You know,
That one might get. That might be the.
What if it's a poisonous frog? You're not to kiss it. I don't know. It's a lot. This is great.
Don't kiss a rainbow frog.
No,
Well, I mean,
don't lick the rainbow
don't lick
frog
the rainbow
anyway.
frog.
Yeah.
That's gonna. If you see that in the jungle anywhere, to my knowledge, the more colorful frogs are the ones that kill you.
Yeah. Get away from those. But some of them are really little. You can't even see them. They're like tiny. You go to Amazonia
Yeah, very,
and
very
see the
small.
little tiny frogs. I mean, they're like small enough to fit on your thumbnail. That's a whole frog. Crazy.
What a tangent.
Gay frogs! Okay, speaking of tangents, New York. You know this place called New York?
I was just there.
Where are you?
I was just there
On purpose.
Here for work.
Shocking. So, New York is a state, and it has its own rules,
Yeah.
right? As states do in these United States because of federalism. And so, one of the things is that states have courts and they have laws, and sometimes you get convicted of a crime in a state,
Yeah.
which in this case, somebody did. And he was convicted of 34 counts of a bunch of felonies, lying about payments, hush money payments, and lying on forms and defrauding banks and all kinds of other shit. And, you know, it's a relatively obscure kind of case, what it's about, but it's also a pretty open and shut case, right? There was no contesting of the facts by the defense. They didn't say that they didn't do it. It was just, we did it, but we think it's fine.
Right.
And the jury was like, well, but by the letter of the law, it's
not fine.
it's not fine. So you're guilty. And, you know, this all seems pretty boring. Why are we talking about this? Who's the guy who got convicted?
The former and going to be president or the president-elect, Donald Trump.
That's right. He was convicted of 34 counts of
yes.
felonies in the state of New York for defrauding everybody. And the judge was supposed to sentence him like a couple of days after the election.
Yeah.
His name is Juan Merchan.
Juan Merchan.
Yeah, great name. And he was like, you know what? In light of the Supreme Court ruling on
Right.
immunity,
We need to.
and because it's right around the election, we're going to go ahead and like put off the sentencing. We'll figure it out after the fact. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? If he wins, maybe it'll affect one thing. If he loses, maybe it'll affect the other, because we have to take into account what the Supreme Court said. Well, it's been that time, right? And so Judge Merchan looked it over and concluded that it didn't matter what the Supreme Court said because it didn't pertain to the state of New York. And
Yeah.
by the letter of the law, the dude's guilty.
And
The conviction stands.
Yeah, and I mean, even as well, too, when this happened, he was running, he was not president at the time either.
That's correct.
So, yeah, just this specific case should not fall under that.
Right. Well,
I can even see the the documents case is one of those ones that's like, all right. I guess even then it depends on when it was, because he was president at the time of those being moved. So then it's like
the question really hinges on what is or what isn't an official act. But in this case,
if he ordered it, it's an official act.
one could make that
The
argument.
Supreme Court has made that argument. I feel like if he's ordered it as president, which if the president is moving out of the residence and you're still the president, you're ordering that. So that case, yeah, cool. I could see where they would be like, whatever, we can get rid of that, which obviously is going to happen. But to
They
this,
did already.
yeah, that's going to go. Yeah, but with this, like, no, this is with a state. He's defrauded the state. I guess no, even the campaign finance laws would still probably
That's
fall.
all federal.
That's federal.
Well,
yeah.
okay, the argument made is that this was done by candidate Trump,
Yeah,
not an
that's
official
yeah,
act.
right.
And that even if he made some of these payments while he was president, which is the case, that he was doing it in furtherance of his campaign.
Right.
In an attempt to hide the relationship with Stormy Daniels because he was running.
Right.
And so this is a distinction without a difference for a lot of people, but it does matter legally. And like Nixon said, when the president does it, it's not illegal. That's the doctrine, and it's not true, but that is what the Supreme Court has decided in their grant of immunity. Mershon here has basically said, I challenge you to legal this out and figure this out, because he's upheld the conviction.
And you're challenging federalism at that point, right? In a sense, right? Like in the sense of the states should be allowed to make their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. It just does it wouldn't make sense if the Supreme Court, like, you're challenging the whole system at that point.
Yeah, the Supreme Court has overruled states doing things within their own selves a lot of times. That's not unheard of. But the question of, okay, so he upholds the conviction. This is going to get appealed up to the state Supreme Court for them to decide.
Right.
And then there will probably be a move by the Trump people to try to appeal this into the federal court system. There'll be a question about the legal standing, whether they can do that, whether they can't. And it'll all just drag on.
Right.
There's no sentencing happening, right? He put that off. He said, we're not going to do any sentencing yet. Trump's sentencing in state court in Manhattan was scheduled for November 26th, but was postponed indefinitely because of other pending motions related to his upcoming second term in office. He faces up to 4 years in prison, though some legal analysts have said prison time seemed unlikely for reasons including his lack of prior criminal record. It is challenging the federalism argument because it's, if states have rights.
And the Supreme Court has already made a ruling about like this. The Supreme Court to me has made this ruling. They said that the president, when you are president, right, you have total immunity. And this isn't
for official acts.
For official acts. This doesn't pass any of that.
No, but they also sort of created that doctrine out of thin air.
Right.
They also created a lot of this stuff revolving around the decisions about Trump out of thin air. I mean, they have cited things that aren't in the Constitution at all. Kagan was very clear about that. She was like, I'd love for somebody to show me where in the Constitution it says the words immunity. It doesn't. And so, and Sotomayor took it even the step further to say if the official act is blatantly illegal, like ordering SEAL Team 6 to kill your political rivals, Joe Biden, because you're still fucking president, that's an official act. Are we really talking about that?
He wants us to go into complete anarchy. That's
be the worst thing that could happen.
Complete
would not be the
anarchy.
How? Who responds to it?
I'm telling you.
You and what army? He still controls the army, doesn't he?
No one's ready for that type of stuff.
They are in Argentina. They're doing it down there. Okay. So that's going on in New York. Now, you and I don't live in New York, despite
down
your
95.
fairly frequent trips up there, fairly frequent trips up there.
I'm always there.
We do not want to be in New York. I don't want to be in New York.
No, when I was a child, I was like, oh, you know what? It was a nice reprieve.
It's a good day trip or a weekend or whatever.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, I could see. But now as I go there as an adult, I'm just itching to come back home.
Yeah. Don't want to be there. Want to be here in the D.C. area with the normal talking people who eat proper food.
Oh my God! I was sitting eating food at a bar and listening to New Yorkers talk about the finals of the Emirates Cup. Oh my God! It was just
annoying as fuck.
It was like anybody calling into WFAN.
Yeah.
Every freaking person.
The fucking Knicks will blow it again, and
Yeah, exactly. And people just being completely ignorant about people on OKC. Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. When did they get rid of Russell Westbrook? What are you talking about? Yeah. Right. I thought they were in Seattle. When did they get a team in Oklahoma?
So it wasn't that bad, but sitting there and just ear hustling and listening, I was like, "Oh God, this is the stereotype." And then they were commenting on hip hop, but that they do know.
They do know that.
I will say that, and it was some good commentary on hip hop where they were just making some really spot on things talking about people reusing verses and be like, it's like, yeah, you're right. So,
Homage.
yeah.
Okay.
Homage. But
So
yes, we don't live there.
we don't live there, but we do live here.
Yes.
And, there's a lot of people who are critical about things in the district. But
Congress
Congress doesn't want the district to govern itself. 700,000 of us.
might not be.
Might not be for long. Can't wait. That's what they voted for. So there's a city council, though, currently.
For now.
And
Home rule?
the city council is made up of 13 members.
Yes.
One of those members is called Vincent Gray. He is retired,
Yeah.
right? He hung it up, and he said,
Kudos to him for that.
I'm not going to participate in any more votes or anything like that because I have dementia,
Right.
and that wouldn't serve my constituents well. We'll finish out the term, and then somebody new's coming in.
Yeah.
They had the election. Was it Felder? I think.
Felder, I think.
Yeah, is his name. Okay, but Vince Gray, retired. The council gave him this huge send off. Right, they had him come in, and they all gave speeches about him. This dude is dedicated like 60 some odd years to public service.
Yeah.
His entire career. He's a hometown hero.
Yeah.
Great guy. So, but he's not participating in votes. So that means that there's 12 who are doing votes. And then there is one about whom the vote was.
Yeah.
His name is Trayon White. No relation to the guy with the same last name who's also on the council, Robert White.
Correct.
And he's also not. He's black. And both the guys whose last name are white are black. It's just the way last names work.
America.
Yeah. Don't interrogate that question too deeply.
Yeah.
It's a little iffy. So Trayon has a vote about him. What are they voting about with Trayon?
I guess last year. It will be earlier this a few months ago.
Winter this year.
Winter of this year. Of the other year. He was accused of some corruption charges and taking bribery money.
He was arrested.
He was arrested for that.
And charged by the federal government for taking $156,000 worth of bribes to steer contracts to various people, city contracts that he oversaw to various people.
Specifically, I want to say around violent interruption.
Violent interruption.
Also making the quote, which was just a damning one, that like the next space, basically, to paraphrase, was like mental health and things of that nature. So.
Yep. So, and it was all caught on video, including handing him wads of cash.
Which is a whole different story on how that unfolded, which unfolded under like PPP loans and like shit.
Yeah, well, that was a whole nother thing. He also took a bunch of PPP loans that he didn't deserve, but also so did everybody in Congress.
Yeah.
So I'm not on him for that.
Yeah.
But this is pretty open and shut. The dude, you're on tape taking the money and explaining what it's for. It's not a good look. You're probably not going to beat this. And, the people of your ward maybe deserve better. So says the rest of his council colleagues, because they voted 11-0
Yeah.
11-0 to expel him.
Yeah.
I was not guessing that I was sure that this was going to be a censure at the most.
No.
Why are they? Because here's what I thought. They're going to say, okay, look, this is reprehensible behavior, but he deserves his time in court, and the people of his jurisdiction or of Ward 8 voted for him and reelected him after he was charged. So they knew, and they still chose him, and they should get to have their chosen representative in government. That's what I thought they were going to say. But no, they did not say that.
If I was to guess on this, haven't spoken to anybody on this,
Very carefully mentioning that.
Yes, I haven't spoken to anybody on this. I would say why do you do this? First, let's answer the why. I think since the end of Barry's last administration, and as we transition into we transitioned to Tony Williams at that point.
Yeah, we went from Barry to Williams.
Right. So as you transition to that, there was this thing about DC in the sense, and I don't like using something that is actually part of DC, these clean hands, right?
Yeah, there is a
And
clean
these
hands law.
Yeah,
in
law,
DC.
right, exactly.
Absolutely.
But like, I think the council and the government, and I have thoughts about Tony Williams, but I think coming out of the Barry administration, that was the focus, right? Because you are afraid of the motherfuckers on the Hill.
Yeah.
That's always going to be what they can come in and try to take control of.
That's right.
And that controls everything in the city. And the city's budget now is huge. So as the city, Williams, Gray, obviously Fenty, and obviously Mayor Bowser. Yeah, Mayor Bowser. They have all like been stewards of this like clean hands. You have not heard specifically of those. I mean, and Vincent Gray actually has a few of these as well too. There's a little with Vincent Gray, but outside of that,
But like they came down real hard on Kwame Brown. And all
yeah,
of that
like
stuff,
everybody they come. It's not. It's something that maybe because again, in black governance, you really can't have any of this.
You can't fuck up if you're a black city with black government with black elected leaders. You can't fuck up.
Yeah, you just don't have the leeway. There's no leeway.
And even more so,
The rope
to
is
your
short.
point. Yeah, I don't like that one. To your point, though, even more specifically with the district, the threat of losing home rule looms over us all the time.
Yeah.
So you can't get caught making a mistake that the white Republicans can point at and white Democrats can point at and say, that is why they don't get to run their own city.
Right. And that, I think, has always been top of mind for most elected officials.
I agree.
I think also what we've watched happen with right, and I don't agree with this, but there have been other legal ways for you to continue to make cash and money based on being a politician in the District of Columbia, right? Again, people might come at me for that, but like that has been it. Like there have been other ways to do this, right? And like me and one of my boys were talking about this, and like the whole thing about this is for me is like, if you're gonna crime better.
Smart. Yeah.
Yes, do it better.
Don't be accepting wads of cash on camera.
Like, what are we doing?
Come on, dude.
It's insane, right? If this is the choices you're gonna make. And yeah, the council has to do this. But back to why do you do this, right? One, you have like you already know like his constituents ride for him, and we've talked ad nauseum at this point about why they do that, and again why this is troubling as well too, because he is a voice for a underrepresented area of the district, right? Specifically Ward 8, and that is an issue there. But he was gonna get elected. They have to go through and vote this way because, again, it's corruption charges. Everybody has to stand on we're not here for corruption. He will be inaugurated in a few weeks, right? DC inauguration will happen shortly. And I think there will be pressure, and we'll see if that guy digs his like toes in on this, but I think he will resign.
Yeah, he probably will.
I think he'll resign. I think that's the play.
You're weighing two things, right? You're weighing that we can't have corruption in government for fear of losing home rule, but also you're weighing that against the fact that, like you said, he represents an underrepresented community. Do you want to be seen silencing the voters of Ward 8 and their choices, or making their choices for them? You know, Penguin McDuffie here had a statement.
I'll never live that on there.
I love Penguin McDuffie. Penguin McDuffie, who was the chair of the ad hoc committee that was set up to review this, said that White, quote, failed to uphold fundamental principles of acting with integrity in the community's best interest. It is truly unfortunate that we have arrived at this point, but this body had no choice. I am profoundly disappointed in the conduct of Trayon White, but the evidence is clear that whether or not his actions rise to the level of a criminal conviction, they constitute a violation of the council's code of conduct and, more importantly, the public trust. And the public trust thing is the key thing.
It is the key piece
that he said there.
Yeah, but I think also too, like when you say like, I thought McDuffie's statement was very strong, right? Because again, it highlights the piece that I'm not saying that this is a criminal charge. Like it's out of my jurisdiction there. But I think as the body of the council, we do have to look at this as a breach in ethics, and the only thing that we can really stand on.
They're only as good as the trust of the public.
Yeah.
And so, and this
but his constituents still trust him.
That's the problem.
They trust
but the
him.
rest of the city doesn't.
Yeah, and you almost wonder. You say, well, to your point, right? He was like duly elected, right? Like,
So was George Santos,
it's true.
and they kicked him out.
They did kick him out.
But they had to. There was a strong argument. Friend of the show, former Congressman Joe Walsh was like, "Hey, look, this guy's not. His constituents get to choose, not the body."
But the body does. But the body does have rules.
Yeah.
And what the constituents do is vote you in to that body. But to me as well, too, once you're in the body, if the body has established rules and you don't follow those rules, the body should be able to expel you. And guess what can happen? You can run again.
Yeah.
And there you go. You can, and that's the remedy of this whole democracy,
That's
small
right.
d.
So he might have to do that.
He might have to do that.
I don't know.
That's happened before.
It has happened
we know,
before.
Yeah,
we know several
something about this
instances of that. I mean,
before.
Barry is obviously the shining example here.
So,
but it is what it is. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Tryon White for obvious reasons, but I think that he. I'm with you. Crime better, guys.
Crime better.
Crime better.
That sounds terrible, but I'm just like,
Don't get caught criming.
Yeah.
I mean, when Penguin McDuffie looks like the reasonable character in this story, you've got a problem. You got a real problem because that guy. I mean, it's unfortunate that he gets to have his name in the paper as a result of that because that dude loves to have his name in the paper, and even if he didn't do anything, I don't know. Tryon, dude, you got to be smarter than this. You are smarter than this. That's the thing that's very disappointing to me. I know he isn't an idiot.
Yeah, I also just wonder as well too. Like for me, I'm like, who are on these individuals' staff?
He doesn't have a staff.
He has a staff. He does have a staff.
No. He doesn't. They resigned.
Well, prior to this, he had a staff. If you look on the website, there are chief of staff. There are people.
Yeah, but he slips his staff to go hang out in the car and collect the money.
But again, if you're going to crime better, there are other people that you can go ahead, put your foot out there where it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't like.
If his staff existed, their main job apparently was to keep him from criming. And they failed at that because he gave him the slip and was living in an apartment they didn't even know he lived in. Not in his own ward where he was arrested. Again, sloppy. Just sloppy. Just terribly sloppy.
And again, it's because going back to the residents of Ward 8, right? And again, I know there's strong feelings for him and I understand why they have that. But with that, I do wonder with issues like this, what happens to like the needs, constituent services that are needed specifically in these wards. Like that shit doesn't stop. People are still calling.
People still
the
have
office.
the need for that.
And luckily the council did a good job as I know of like between like
they're
Robert
going to staff
White,
the stuff.
like they staff and like those that I believe help.
There's a caretaker Ward 8 essentially, and they've only got a few weeks that they got to get through this until Felder takes over.
It's so unfortunate.
Or till
he's either expelled,
till he's expelled or
resigns. I think he resigns.
I think he probably does too. But I to the representative aspect of this and like for his constituents, they also deserve to have a representative who is as strong an advocate for them as Tryon White was, who isn't also stupid enough to take $156,000 in cash in a bribe. Like, they need competent leadership. And I'm not saying he's incompetent. I'm saying he's compromised and therefore can't represent them cleanly or efficiently. Supposing he doesn't resign or supposing he wins re-election and comes back and he's like in a situation where he's right as rain on some issue. Right. There's a fight, right? And he's like, no, this is what's got to happen. The constituents deserve this. This is the thing. Here's the legal justification of blah, blah, blah. And whoever's arguing against him goes, how about for $156,000 you get the fuck out of here? And then he's like, dude, that was a while ago. And they're like, yeah, but you're still a fucking criminal. Like, it makes it impossible for him to ever represent cleanly, you know?
Okay.
Brian has thoughts.
I have thoughts. Always have thoughts.
Tryon jumped the turnstile once.
Yeah, and I pushed him over the edge, and he's down on the.
Oh God, that video is insane.
Saw that
Yeah, that was. You sent me that video.
Yes.
My thing with him, one, I've been part of interviews with him. Shout out to Focus Phil and Focus Radio. And mind you, he is a wholeheartedly, you can tell he's a righteous dude.
Yeah, he means what he says.
Yeah, he means what he says.
Yeah.
When this came about and having that discussion with Focus Phil, I mentioned the fact that there are times I feel like as some politicians have to be dirty to do some good. And I feel like this situation, I think that's what this situation was. But at the same time, yeah, it's kind of weird to get arrested in a district that you're not even, running in and stuff like that. So I get that aspect. But here, I as for integrity part and all that stuff, I think that has been lost for a good while.
Shame has been dead for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, as much as we try to,
People used to resign immediately when this shit happened.
Yeah.
Right.
They used to, oh, damn it.
Now they're like, go ahead and prove it.
Yeah, prove
You're
it. And,
crazies.
Come and get me. It's like,
Nothing but a talking a badge.
Yeah.
Al Franken was out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. He was like, I didn't even do it, but I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here because I don't want this smoke.
Yeah.
That is over with.
Yeah. So those type of things, I really think the days of the high prestige, integral politician is gone.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think we take this thing literally to the point where it's like, look, this guy, to me, let's say this. If he does come back to run and say this, like, look, if this guy's coming back to run, Barry did it. I mean, he got caught smoking pot, coke
crack
and all that stuff, came back, and, he got
It's addiction.
and all that stuff. And
Different.
it's not different.
It is.
Not.
No,
Because
Barry
again,
didn't have choice.
Again, the integral part from him is like, look, you figure it's like he's a clean politician, meaning he's war on drugs and all that stuff. And next thing you know, smoking crack with a crackhead.
I didn't think that.
No, I don't think anybody thought that.
Don't think anybody thought that.
But to your point, like, Treyon.
Alcohol's a drug too.
If what Treyon had done was got caught because he was like funneling, money to an orphanage or something like that, like you can make the case of like, okay, he did something illegal. He was scheming somebody to look like they were bribing him, but he was using the money to
Robin Hood.
Yeah, feed children. That's not what he did, though.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying. Like I said before.
And he wasn't like steering contracts. It's not like there was a situation where maybe there were two bidders for the violence interruption contract and the less effective one won, and he was willing to take the bribe to steer it to the more effective one. He was steering money, like diverting it out of that program. He wasn't doing it to increase that program. So it's hard to make the case that he was doing dirty to do the good. He was doing dirty to serve himself. And he said so much on the tape, hey, I'm tight right now. I need the money. And that's the problem. He didn't spend it all feeding hungry children. He spent it all living in an apartment that he doesn't belong in. The people deserve a representative who is as fierce an advocate as Treyon White is, who isn't as guilty as Treyon White is.
Okay, again, well, let me say this. So,
Allegedly.
Heavy on the allegedly.
If he gets a sentence, jail sentence, which he probably will, comes out, and then next thing you know, election time is, and he's running again to go back. Would you be okay with that?
Again, I believe that the people should get to choose their representative. So yeah, I'm not even saying they needed to kick him out. I'm saying I'm a little surprised that they did.
Yeah, you say you're surprised. Yeah,
I thought they were going to split the difference here and
I'm
come
not
up with a
surprised.
way to say that they condemn the behavior, but that the people deserve their representative. That's what I thought they were going to do. They didn't do that. I'm shocked about that.
DC does not move like that anymore. No, it is like, I think even Vincent Gray, like I think his term was ending. I think.
Yeah.
As well. But even that was a big deal. a
Yeah.
lot of his like staff and people
Everybody
went down.
quit on him,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think-
several people went to jail.
Yeah, that shit was real. So like they just don't play around with this, and I also think, right, people might already even have a target on this individual's back for a variety of reasons, right? Whether earned or not earned, and you just can't give anybody a reason.
Yeah.
and
That's the
they're-
thing is if you know that people are after you anyway,
Yeah,
you got to stay super clean. And the home rule guillotine hanging over all of this, which now got even more real with the Republicans.
and that's another
victory.
reason this is obviously.
I think
happening.
that's what's really driving
Yeah.
this is that, not that I think it would stop them.
I think they would have done this if Biden or Kamala won as well.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I think that the Republicans are going to try to destroy home rule regardless. They just needed a pretense, and so you
bike lane
remove
is the
one
thing
more.
that'll
Yeah,
just
I don't
piss them
like
off.
this. How come it doesn't say in the Constitution they get to have their own government? Doesn't say.
Some DC residents give up home rule, get rid of the bike lanes.
Yeah, maybe.
I guarantee you, I probably could get 4 out of 10 people, but hey, you give up home rule, get rid of the bike lanes. Everybody else is giving up on democracy.
Get the circulator bus back.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Dead.
Speaking of buses, Tez Talk.
Hey.
Okay.
You know, it's look, this one is.
I picked this,
This
but
is a good
I
one.
thought this is a thing you're going to know about, and I don't really
Look at these dead-ass
have
birds.
enough to. This isn't about dead ass birds this time, but this is about license plates.
This is about
and
license plates.
technology.
Yeah, so it's becoming legal in a growing number of states to have digital license plates. Right? What are digital license
No
plates?
risk here.
They're exactly what you thought, right? Right. There's some novelty to this, right? You could probably put some nice little like sparkles on it, or you could change the message on it, which I think defeats the purpose a little bit of the license plate.
If you don't like Maryland's, free state,
They-
you could
you
put
could
something
change
else
that.
on there.
But again, what this turns into is another like IoT device, the Internet of Things, and there's a chance that this gets hacked.
There's an obvious problem here.
Yeah.
Is that if it's a little computer, somebody can change what it does.
Yeah, as I understand this sits on the actual like device itself. So again, someone can get on. Sometimes the old method is the best method. And then Joseph Rodriguez, he's a researcher at the security firm IO Active, has revealed a technique to jailbreak, as you know, what happens with many mobile devices. And he's jailbroke like the leading vendor of these digital plates,
Which is
right?
called Reviver.
Reviver, right? And there's like Reviver's already sold 65,000 of these plates. And by removing the sticker on the back of the plate and attaching a cable to its internal connectors, he's able to rewrite Reviver's plate's firmware, right? And firmware is basically software that controls hardware. And he can do this in a matter of minutes. And then with the custom firmware installed, the jailbroken license plate can receive commands via Bluetooth from a smartphone app. So it instantly changes the displays and shows any character, any image on this. Like nothing could go wrong with this, right? Obviously, nothing could go wrong.
It's like the
with
James Bond cars with the flipping license plates, except it's now an infinite number of flipping license plates.
Like, what if they committed crime and make the license plate yours?
Yeah.
That's it. Simple one.
Or they just don't want to pay the easy pass and they pick
Just,
some random
black it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can do literally anything. Fuck you, cops, and just drive through.
And right, all of this isn't surprising, right? There would always need to be some way for these devices to connect to something, to update them,
Yes.
for whatever reason,
to load the stuff in the
first
first
place. And then you also think about like in the future, would there be like wireless updates, and then that adds another does this connect to some type of network?
There's an obvious reason not to have these.
Yeah,
And here it is.
And here's the other piece that I don't think people always think of, right? You have this digital device, right? And what I see, because you think about the license plate and really like, who uses the license plate for the most part when you're on the road?
The cops.
Exactly. And I think what we don't always think about is, right, we now make this digital. the apparatus that actually utilizes the license plate
Can control it.
will now eventually ask for laws to control that. And then now we have something that we've never had before. We will, and no, it's not now, but eventually I could see that there would be a ability for the police to then connect to your vehicle.
They could kill switch it. They could route a kill switch through this. They could track you. They could, you're just, sometimes.
And then does the state government get in on this and say, hey, no, we will make digital ones because now we're
going to
that
mandate digital ones.
There's these,
So we can track your car anywhere you go. So we can put,
just saying, these, like, people
y'all don't need internet toasters, right? Like, there are certain things that don't need a screen and don't need to be part of the internet. They just don't. This is a bet. I'm not saying that you're entitled to have the anonymity to commit crimes with a license plate, so that you don't get tracked with a regular metal one.
Right.
But I'm also not saying that, like, you get to have this thing where you can run every red light in the county and just flip the license plate every time you do it. They're already out busting people for, like, putting those covers on their license plates.
Yeah, those have been around
things?
forever. Yeah.
Those things have been around forever. They don't actually stop the cameras from working. And in my opinion, they actually they're good, right? They're good. They protect the license plate. They keep it from rusting. They keep it in good shape, right? License plates take a pounding.
Yes.
You ever go put your sticker on and you get up close to your plate and you're like, damn, this thing is like, how does my car still look halfway decent? This thing looks like it's been through the fucking washing machine. You don't need this. This is bad. This is bad, 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 bad. And look at what was it took minutes.
And then this IO Active says they repeatedly
they tried to contact the company.
Yeah, they tried to reach out to them. And nonetheless, Reviver told Wire that it only became aware of IO Active's jailbreaking research when Wire reached out to. So, like, these fucking idiots don't even know what's going on as well, too. And, like, I don't know why something that, again, is also going to be tied into, like, a digital registration of a person, because the car is registered to a person, that how there isn't any, like, penetration tests or, like, people testing for these bugs or thinking this through. So,
anything that is digital can be hacked. Anything. Smartwatch, everything. Yeah. Everything. So, I just...
Pager.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that, but yeah.
Come on.
Guys, like, this, they just, no. And the company's full of shit when they're like, oh, well, it would take a really special screwdriver and they'd have to know how to do it. Okay, guys, come on. Like 10 seconds, the internet's full of this. Yeah, everybody's selling the screwdriver, and they're all going to, like...
China manufactures the screwdriver because they want to fuck shit up. Right? Like, someone has already turned on the factory to be like, oh, that's the screwdriver you need? 30 million of those.
Yeah. They sold it to Reviver in the first place. They're like, here, this is a magic screwdriver
exactly,
nobody has.
It's the same business that's selling it.
And they're stupid enough to believe it. We're the only ones with the screwdriver. Where'd you get it? We bought it from this guy named Lee in China. And it's like, what if he sells it to anybody else? He would never do that.
No. Or even worse, the design was made here, and then shipped there to make, and then they snatch.
And they're pirating it and selling thousands of them. It's obvious guys. Oh my God! Moving on. Hilarious.
Jesus Christ!
You know what's not funny?
What?
Ukraine blowing up the Russians. Well, it's kind of funny. Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I
take it back. This is funny. Okay. Here's the story. A high-ranking Russian military official was killed Tuesday morning in Moscow.
I was going to say, whoop.
In Moscow, when an explosive device attached to a scooter, those goddamn scooters we hate on our sidewalks, apparently there's a reason, attached to a scooter detonated as he exited a residential building, read his apartment. A brazen bombing claimed by Ukraine's security service, as both Kyiv and Moscow have intensified attacks ahead of potential peace talks.
Because that's what you do before peace talks. You ratchet it up.
Well, if the Israelis have taught us anything. So this guy here that you're looking at, he looks like a fine gentleman. Now, if there's ever been a Bond villain name, his name is Igor Kirillov. I mean, come on. He may as well be.
Krylov will be at the bridge.
Yeah, Ruski kills him off or whatever. You know, it's
When he's there, I'll meet him.
yeah. So he's the head of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical defense forces. The Ukrainians are pissed off at him because they say that he ordered some chemical attacks using banned stuff in Ukraine and was responsible for the deaths of a bunch of their soldiers and a bunch of people. So they basically issued an arrest warrant and tried him in absentia and convicted him of doing this stuff in their own courts, which is, totally normal. And then they're like, all right.
Him to death.
They sentenced him to death, and then they did it. And they got some Uzbek guy to help him out with that. They found some Uzbek dude to help rig the scooter. That's who did it. This is what the Russians say anyway. The Russians say they caught this Uzbek guy who reported that the Ukrainians gave him $100,000 and said they were going to give him safe passage to the EU, which they're not in. And but they could probably arrange that.
Get him there.
And then all he had to do was take this scooter from the informant and park it out front of the building. There was a camera on it.
Crazy.
The Yukis had a camera watching the scooter for when the guy stepped out so they could press the button. This is very clearly meant to send a message to the Russians that you're not safe anywhere. Not in Moscow, not in your apartment, not next to Putin, nowhere. They got drones everywhere. They can see everything. They've got informants on the inside. Apparently, Russia's crawling with people. They need money.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians are willing to pay to get what they want. And these guys are already nihilist, ready to die Russians anyway. They're like, oh, yeah, well, if I get $100,000 and can get my mom out of the gulag, it's worth it, even if I die. Who cares? Life is fleeting, whatever. What's the fucking Tolstoy?
Yes.
They're like, yeah, life doesn't matter. So, they're all into that. Hooray. And they're going into peace talks, man. Shit, peace talks. If I was the Russians, I wouldn't get within 100 miles of any Ukrainian anything. Shit, they might blow it. The peace talk, the pen they hand you to sign it might be loaded full of C4.
Can't happen in Moscow. Got to happen in a neutral site.
Yeah, neutral nothing. They'll do it. They are not fucking around. The Ukrainians are not fucking around. They must have been hanging out with the Israelis. They got the pagers blowing up everybody. What's going to be the next thing? Russian guy's going to be out there playing, I don't know, what do they play? They don't play golf. There's no golf course.
Hockey.
Hockey. Putin's going to be in one of those old man leagues scoring 100 goals.
100 goals.
And the puck's going to explode.
Right.
It could happen. What is going on? This is straight out of James Bond. I'm telling you. The guy's name is even there. I don't know. Russian investigators said the killing is being investigated as a suspected, quote, terrorist act. Well, what do you think? Brian, I don't know if you have the image of the scooter itself, what was left over. The scooter's, still probably rideable. It's fine. It's charred, but it's probably fine. Officials from Ukraine's SBU said Tuesday that Kirillov, 54, was, quote, an absolutely legitimate target since he gave orders to use banned chemical weapons against the Ukrainian military. Ukrainian authorities said Monday that Kirillov's orders, such weapons have been used more than 4,800 times in southern and eastern fronts in Ukraine since the invasion began. They didn't, the Israelis will do stuff like this and be like, that's terrible. I'm so sad that happened. Do you need any help from us? What? Us? No. Well, we don't know. I mean, it could have been anybody. They're kind of...
Yeah, they always deny.
They don't admit it. Ukrainians are like, yeah, fuck, we did that. Who wants next? Man, don't fuck with them. Donald, just, no more perfect phone calls. All right. This one's called, it's not going to work, but at least we're not paying for it. Remember how I talked about confusion before?
Confusion. Heavy on the fusion.
Heavy on the fusion. Okay, so Tez, you know about nuclear things, right?
Nominally.
There's two kinds of nuclear reactions, right? There's fission, where you split an atom. We've got that one really well figured out.
Kaboom.
Yeah, from Hiroshima to the electricity in your outlets.
Yeah.
It's on submarines. Even space probes have nuclear fusion or fission. Reactors in them. And it's not great, right? It has a lot of radioactive shit that gets produced.
The waste of it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also kind of risky, right? Because if it gets out of control, it's a very high intensity sort of reaction, and there's a lot of heat involved. It can melt things, it can blow up, and it can run away.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's another kind of a nuclear reaction, which is called fusion.
Yes.
Which we also have a pretty good handle on in terms of bombs. A hydrogen bomb is a fusion bomb, right? And in that case, you're not splitting an atom. You're taking two very light atoms like hydrogen, and you're smashing them together. And if you do that hard enough, then it creates a really lot of heat and it releases a lot of energy. And we experience fusion on a daily basis because the sun is a big fusion reaction.
Thank God.
Yeah. In fact, all stars are.
Yeah.
Right? And in stars, they're taking light atoms like hydrogen and helium, and the gravity of the star is so massive, it's smashing these things together, and it's creating heavier elements. And, that's what we're all made of. We're literally the products of fusion. If it weren't for nuclear fusion, we wouldn't exist.
You're a star.
We are.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, right. We are stardust.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, people have been trying to be like, well, if it makes a bomb with a huge energetic reaction, couldn't we figure out a way to harness that energy and make electricity?
Yeah.
So far, no. No. And the reason is because to make a bomb blow up, well, you don't have to contain it, right? But to contain a fusion reaction, you need a lot of very, very, very powerful magnets and stuff to hold it together. And to kick it off, you need a huge amount of energy, like a giant fucking laser, to start the reaction. But once you got it going, it's super duper safe. If you opened up the reactor by accident, it would stop immediately. It would die, right? It doesn't create a chain reaction. It doesn't run on. It just stops. Exposure to air. Anything heavier than the hydrogen that it's in is not going to work. And if you don't have it contained in the magnetic field, it's all just going to smoosh itself apart because it's all trying to push itself apart all the time anyway. So it's super duper safe. But the problem is it takes more energy to do it than you get out of it.
Yeah. For now.
Because you don't get nothing for free. Right. Okay. Enter a bunch of nerds from MIT. Includes a lot of my family.
I was going to say, what the hell?
Commonwealth Fusion Systems, based in Massachusetts, said it will invest billions of dollars to build a unique facility, which, if the technology can be proved, promises to supply 400 megawatts of electricity, enough to power about 150,000 homes in the state of Virginia. The sweater vest himself, Glenn Youngkin.
He's there.
He went out, he talked to these guys. He's like, hey, we've got this site where Dominion isn't using it right now. We will sell it to you, and you can build a fusion reactor here. We will clear the way for you. They even had to write new regulations to include the word fusion in power generation and shit because that isn't in the current. And then they're like, you can do anything you want as long as you don't ask for any state money to support this. And everybody signed on to that immediately because it's like, yeah, sure, these idiots can try their fusion stuff, but we don't want to pay for it. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm pretty happy about this. I mean, Glenn Youngkin did a good thing.
I mean, it's a hell of a pivot after you couldn't get the Wizards.
Right.
completely different pivot.
If you get the first fusion reactor.
Back to get a fusion reactor. We didn't put any money up. We gave you some shit that nobody's using.
In the early 2030s, all eyes will be on the Richmond region, and more specifically Chesterfield County, as the birthplace of commercial fusion energy, CFS co-founder and chief executive Bob Mumgard said in the release. Virginia emerged as a strong partner as they look to implement innovative solutions in both reliable electricity and clean forms of power. Now, fusion, nuclear in general, would solve the climate crisis in an instant.
Yeah.
Right? We have free electricity for the rest of forever. And we don't need to make any carbon to do it. They're building a demonstration plant up in Massachusetts. It's going to be called Spark.
Smart.
The one that they're going to build here in Virginia is going to be called ARC. So, like an arc, of electricity. Sense. Yeah, it's cute. And I guess Dominion is all set to buy all the power from them.
Yeah.
So it looks like a win-win all the way around. There's one
if it works.
If it works. There's one big problem here. This is all part of Youngkin's plan to pivot towards a presidential run. Do you want a president, Glenn Youngkin?
I mean, this isn't going to seal the deal for him.
Shit, yeah. If he's the fusion president, the fusion candidate,
I don't know.
I brought the people of Virginia together in such unity that they literally fused together and created the power of our administration.
That's how he's selling
It
this?
writes itself.
All right. Let's see. I don't think people like Glenn
I'll be his
Youngkin.
campaign manager.
People don't like Glenn Youngkin.
Nobody likes Glenn Youngkin. Apparently, not even the bullet. Okay. Yeah. All right, this last story before we get to our outro. I don't know if we want to cover this. This is up to you if we want to talk about this out loud or not.
Sure.
Okay, go for it.
This story I saw first on Blue Sky, which I was like,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Someone posted this before I saw it come through in the news, but yes, the one Rayful Edmond III. If you're unaware of that name, if you're in this area and you've
It
been
doesn't
here,
immediately strike terror/respect.
yeah, I mean, if you are from this area,
Heavy on the respect.
yeah, heavy on the respect. This was one time like a drug king, like the drug kingpin in the United States of America. And he has been behind bars, I want to say probably since 1991 too, maybe on that?
Yeah,
Like
91.
91. Again, for a variety of charges. And I think anybody in this area has a Rayful Edmond story. There's many kids. Again, he touched, for better or for worse, many individuals' lives.
A lot of those stories are things like he paid my rent,
Yeah.
or he got my grandmother a car,
Yeah.
or like he made sure that I could walk to school safely. Like some of those stories are good. Some of the stories are terrible, but some of the stories are pretty good.
But yeah, he spent obviously majority of his life in federal prison, was infamously known to basically be one of the bigger informants for the federal government. But yeah, he died in a halfway house in Florida at the age of 60, I guess last week now. And just before he was going to be released.
Yeah, so none of us knew he was in Florida. Like we knew he was in federal custody someplace.
Yeah.
But we didn't know where.
Right.
They were pretty cagey about that for various reasons. And then the fact that he was close to being released, I don't think I knew that. And I don't think that he died and there's no cause of death given, and it's just before he's about to be released after being an informant for all of that time and helping the government get all of this stuff. And then, I don't like that. I'm not saying I'm like, oh, the drones in New Jersey are aliens. I'm just saying I don't like that. This one doesn't add up.
Feels weird. Yeah, even to comment on his life is an interesting avenue to not even like tiptoe down, but just to like explore. Because yeah, I think, and he said this as well too. I mean, he's had a lot of remorse for what he's done.
He was very clear about that.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, he's influential in this city. Again, for better or for worse, you could almost say the crack epidemic, which, again, I wouldn't say he's responsible for, because I would almost say he's like
I'm sorry, is he Ronald Reagan?
Exactly, he's a symptom of
his parents were selling drugs when he was a little kid.
Yeah.
He's not responsible for any of that.
Exactly, yeah. But where we're at today in D.C., you could almost say the actual epidemic and the addiction of crack cocaine and the way it hollows out the city, and in two ways, right? In like individuals being put away because of the war on drugs and removed from the community, but then also individuals who are no longer in the community because they're either dead, either because they were involved in homicides that were attached, related to running drugs, or just on the drugs itself. So I've always looked at this very like critically, because the drug almost was able to hollow out a community in like a 3-method approach, and
It's the vanguard of gentrification.
It is, yeah.
Let's be clear about that.
And not just in DC.
Introducing crack into urban environments.
Yeah.
One could make the case that that's done specifically to, as you say, hollow them out to make room for newer, different kinds of residents to take over that space.
Yeah.
And that has certainly happened in the district.
Yeah. And it happened after white flight as well, too. So it's kind of... Right, specifically.
It's right of return. Of course it is.
Yeah,
Why?
of course. Yeah. I mean, and people are able to move into these new neighborhoods in the South, and like obviously the backing of having federal government jobs, and it's a very unique thing. And if you could easily just be like, he's a bad man, he killed a lot of people, and that's true. But I also think that you're being a little dishonest, intellectually dishonest, if you don't look at like the 30,000 foot level of this, and how do you get an individual like this in this small city?
Yeah.
Like, how does this happen?
How does the talent that made him so good at this get identified and selected to do this thing as opposed to any of the other things that he might have chosen or ended up doing?
And been just as successful in.
Yeah. Would have been genius at.
If he was invested in his own business, like if there was someone who was investing in his own business,
yeah.
Right,
if he had like a auto body shop or something, he would have grown to be
donuts
Mako or whatever.
Right? Who knows? Whatever the fuck it would be.
Starbucks or anything.
Exactly.
Like, So I don't know. That part of it just adds to the complexity of this. All of a sudden, we find out first of all that he's in Florida, and that he was about to be released, and that he's dead. All kind of in the same news story. I'm just saying, I don't like that. I don't like it. Something here ain't right. I don't know what else I expect to find out about this later, but I imagine it'll make an excellent Netflix documentary.
Yeah.
Okay. I have this thing that I want you to read that I wrote for you to read because I think it's funnier if you read it. But before we get to that, we do need to talk about the ChipChat Derby, which happened last weekend. Yeah. So as all of our devoted fans know, Tez is a big supporter of a prominent football club. I believe they're called the Gunners. Is that the right name? What do you go by these days?
Yes.
Arsenal.
Yeah,
you have to
Arsenal.
say it like that. Yeah.
Arsenal.
They're from
Arsenal.
They're from where? North London.
Technically.
Yeah, with an F. North London. Yeah.
North London.
Yeah. So, they're good. They're right now. They'd be playing for a spot to go to Europe. They're a top 5 team, and they played against my shitty little club, Everton, who is facing a relegation fight for the last 5 or 6 years at this point, almost. And we're not good. Nobody had any expectations in this game. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I expected Everton to lose. I don't know what you expected to have happen.
Yeah,
You expected that to lose. And you have a lot of like heavy hitters on your team, right? You got that kid, what's his name? Saka?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Really good.
And that Jesus guy?
Yeah,
he's getting a little older, but he's still pretty good.
Martin Odegaard.
Yeah, got the Odegaard guy.
Yeah.
He came out of the game for some reason. Declan Rice, he came out of the game too. Yeah. I'm just saying, it to me, a team with that many talented footballers, I think is the word you guys like, that a coach chose to take them out of the game for various reasons against a team that they mostly expected to beat. What ended up happening, Tez?
We drew.
We did, which means we each got a point, which to us mattered a lot. Actually helped Liverpool, which I was not thrilled about.
Well, I was like,
because they had a draw.
Yeah, we should.
This was your chance to gain 2 points on them.
Crazy.
But instead you snatched a draw from the jaws of victory. I think mostly off of coaching decisions. I would say.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
You did not run an attack for the whole first half. You just sort of sat there. waiting to see if we were going to be dumb enough to do it. And Sean Deitch is not dumb enough to do that. And then when it did come time for you to attack, you had half your team was your strikers or whatever, goal scorers were out and looking a little tired. What do you have to say for yourself? Coming up with a draw against a woeful team like mine. Do you have a prepared statement?
Do I have a prepared statement?
Do it in the accent.
What do I have as a prepared statement? No.
Arteta did not look happy.
No, he should not be happy. We should have won that match. I don't know if
Make sure label the camera.
label the camera. Yeah, have it up. Have everything.
That's a win for us, by the way.
It is a win
It's
for
a
you all.
huge win.
I don't have much to say on this. I'm very, very frustrated on that.
No, that's good. That's what I expected.
I think this would. I don't know if the sound will play for this on this. Let me see if it does. I think this will be
Somebody else to sum it up for you?
It was all bullshit.
It's okay to play those sounds again.
Yeah.
I left a lot of my Trump memes, GIFs, videos. I left them alone for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was appropriate. I didn't want to continue to be the one, again, waving these flags and things and thinking these things that aren't funny or really funny. But now that he's been voted back in,
It's okay to just think it's funny.
fair game.
Yeah.
I'm here for the jokes now. Back for jokes.
Yep. That's what this show's about again.
I have so many of them. Did I accidentally just delete this? No, I hope not.
What, did you shake your phone?
I
Is
did
that a
shake
thing?
it.
Does that work?
Yeah, you shake it and it brings it back. It's a shake to undo. I have a very funny story about when I first showed this feature to somebody when I worked inside
That's
an
a
Apple
real
store.
thing?
Yeah, if you shake the phone, you can undo the last thing you did.
So it's a digital, mechanical shake it to...
Yeah, it has a gyroscope, I guess it's in there.
Well,
and,
yeah, it's an accelerometer.
An accelerometer, exactly. Those are the two things that...
All right, we'll have to do Apple things later. Are you ready to read the prepared statement here?
I love reading. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Just go straight for it.
Yep.
All right. Tez reads. Just joking.
Yeah.
No. Just joking. Just joking. Just joking. We want to thank all the folks that have been part of Ripped Radio, Beltway Radio, and all our fans and supporters who have come to be part of what we do here each week. We aren't going away, just back to our remote roots, but we are looking for a new spot. So if you would like to host us, we are happy to be friends. This is a lot harder than Trump made it look, and we wish he was here so he could tell Chip, quote, I told you so.
Yeah.
The good Trump.
Yeah, good Trump, who ran Rip Radio and has restarted Rip Radio down in Florida.
We knew that was happening.
Yeah.
Rip TV.
So, yeah, it was hard. This is harder than I thought. And thank you to Brian,
Yes.
without which none of this would be possible. Not just our show, but all of the shows.
All the shows.
I mean, Brian is the heart and soul of this community radio station. So, yeah, I'm sad that this didn't work because most of the things I try work.
Okay.
But it's not over, of course. We're just morphing.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, we're going in a direction that everybody else is going anyway. But I just, return to work is bullshit. And there was a whole story in the paper this week about how, it's companies with return to work have had a higher turnover and attrition rate than companies that have allowed for remote. So we are being smart and allowing our team members to work in a hybrid remote environment that best suits them and their creative output from the leadership.
Spin.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sad. I'm sad that it didn't work.
It's all right.
I'm sad that I don't have a place to go to every week.
That piece, has been...
And have this as a special thing that
Exactly.
is for us to do together. But I am grateful that we'll still get to be
To
together.
do it, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's how it started.
And it worked.
And it did, yeah, it worked. Some might say better.
I think maybe.
Maybe. There was some good shows. I don't know. We've had some great shows here.
We did get to eat Mitch McConnell on one of those remote shows.
Yeah,
So
like corn on the cob.
yeah. Anyway, okay. So that's it. This is going to be the last sign off from here at Beltway Radio Studios. And so thank you to all of our radio partners, Google, Spotify, the NFL, random podcast apps, all those guys, whatever. Thanks to NOTN for keeping us on for another week, maybe. Don't know. At this point, maybe it doesn't matter.
I don't know if it's there's a studio in the contract that they have to.
No.
No, okay. Then we're good.
Thanks to our home on the interwebs, coplaymedia.com. And thanks, as always, to our family here at Beltway Radio for making us sound as smooth as a running radio network. Woo! Yeah, that one wasn't fun. Just sad. All right. Where can everybody get you on the social medias and stuffs?
You can find me in the Zuckerverse at Ketchum Cordy on Instagram. And you can find me, as always, being a flaming liberal on Blue Sky at DC Cortez.
There you go. You can find me and the show on the Twitter at ChipChatRR. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram at RipChipChat. And you can find me on Blue Sky, where I'm gaining followers every day.
Of course.
Some of which might actually be people.
Some.
There do seem to be a lot of AI bots all of a sudden.
There's a lot of AI bots, but we knew that would.
We knew that was coming. But you can find me on Blue Sky at Chef Chip, my old Twitter handle.
Back.
Maybe Elon will give me that one back too. I don't know.
You're not the worst person he's giving a fucking handle back to.
Close, not even close. And we are legitimately looking for a new place. So if you do have a place that you'd like to talk about, we'll love to talk business with you. So please get at me on those various channels, and we can talk about that. And we've got gear. All we need is an internet connection and a climate-controlled environment, and we're good.
And a low rent.
Yeah, low rent. Shack out back. That's where we went. We did that for a year, Larry and I did. Anyway, all right. Well, you hear that music. It's much later than we expected.
It's actually earlier than we usually do this.
Sometimes. So for the last time from this location, I'm Chip. That's Tez. That's Brian. You've been listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Street balls.
I'll eat Mitch McConnell.
Popcorn on the cob.
I'm ready for New City.
But no hearse, FTG and Shapiro try to rap, but don't rehearse. These right-wing nuts can't get any better, just worse. Tez and Chip out here trying to save the republic like Tez on the golf course. It ain't private, just public. When we have a drink in the bar, it's not beer, it's a public. It's hard to get something to rhyme with this subject. If we get famous, we can give a shout out to Brian. To get us out on time is what he be trying. The show is like a custom feathered avian that knows words. How can we stay late when our guest is Illy Bird? In conclusion, the message is to go out and serve folks, whether that's through art, music, or if you just tell jokes. Seek to medicate your ears, hope you eradicate your fears. Thanks for sticking with us through all these years.